story with that context in the background. We look at chapter 11, verse 29 through verses 40, and say, still, how can God be represented in this? A man who claims to know him. I want you guys to give you a heads up, first of all, that God never asked for this vow to happen. He did not say, when you triumph, I want your daughter. He didn't say that. And easily the time period that Japheth showed up in Judges, he could easily have been into the land already for about 60 to 90 years. From when the time the people entered into Canaan from the wilderness. To give you guys an estimate, that's roughly, let's say, grabbing from the time now and trying to understand how day living was in the time of Ellen White, in the beginning of the church, or trying to understand the lifestyle of your grandparents. A lot of knowledge is lost from point A to point B. And this is where Japheth is standing now, where easily he could have been into the land already for about 60, 90, 100 years from the entrance of the wilderness. And God said, well, God didn't say anything, but at the moment, that's exactly what he said. He didn't say anything. He said, I didn't ask for the sacrifice of your daughter. And because Japheth, by this time, was so engrossed in the culture of the Canaanite religion that was infused with Israel, there was misunderstandings of God going on left and right. Left and right. Where in his mind, he thought that in order for him to connect with God, he had to offer something that he thought was a good idea, which quite frankly, there's nothing wrong with that. But it's how he did it that is a problem. Because when we look at verse 29, it says, then the Spirit of the Lord came upon Japheth. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. First of all, there's two things playing out in this verse. One is that God's presence was already with Jephthah. He was already there with him. And the other thing that was going on was that Jephthah returned to what it was that God was asking him to do, or to the Israelites to do in the beginning, which was to finish conquering the people that was in the surrounding nation. He was returning back to the promise, to the command, and God had already blessed him. And Jephthah, I don't know because it was blind or he didn't know what to look for, I don't know what it was, but after already having the blessing of God, and after already being able to conquer people and seeing that the hand of God was in the situation, then this is when Japheth makes the vow. So that if you just do this, God, then I will do this. And God is saying, I already did it. My hand is already in it. My hand's already in it. And Japheth goes out. He gains victory. And also, another interesting happens in the vow. Another thing interesting happens in the vow. When he says that, starting in verse 30, and Japheth made a vow to the Lord, if you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering. One of the things that I wondered was, because of the fact that Japheth was so engrossed already of the influence of the Canaanite religion in Israel, I wondered if he was already thinking of making some form of human sacrifice to begin with. So I started investigating this. And I looked into the architecture of homes back then. Because it was the custom of military people, when they came back home, that there would be people waiting for him there to meet his camels, to help relieve him, to start to help him begin to relax. That was the custom. The other way that the houses were built was that you walked in and there was a courtyard, and there was rooms built in the back. And you walked into the courtyard and there was animals there that the family used, either for goat, for milk, or cheese, wool, whatever. It was there. And it was controlled, it was confined. They didn't let their animals roam around because there was the chance that it could be stolen, that you had lost your ability to be able to provide for your family. So these animals were kept in a safe spot, in a safe section, in the house. It's not like that they were allowed to roam around whatever. And then I started looking into the wording. And I focused on the word whatever. I thought, I wonder what it says in Hebrew. So I pinpointed the word. And the first word that came out of that definition was who, not what. And the ESV was the only version that caught that and made a little note and said, or whoever. Japheth, in his mind, because of the influence of the Canaanite religion already, because of the combining and meshing of two things together, of things holy and things unholy combining together, was already probably 100 years into the picture with a messed up picture of God. And he thought that the only way to praise God was to offer him a human sacrifice. And it turned ugly really fast. God never asked for that vow. It was an unwanted vow. And it is a sad story. Oh, that was supposed to meant to be a time of rejoicing, of praising God, and saying, look what he's done for Israel. It was a time of mourning and sadness. Because Japheth, even though he had a very interesting picture of God, knew that the promise that he made to God was important because God was God. And he kept it. And the daughter was able to do it as well. And it's very sad how the Bible mentions it. It says, and she was a virgin. In the process of burnt sacrifices, the animal had to be without defect. And the funny thing is that at the end of the section of the Bible that talks about the burnt sacrifice, it says, and it was a pleasant aroma to the Lord. It's not that he enjoyed that the animal was dying there in front of him. It was just that even though he knew that because there was significance of death, there was a symbol of death in front of him, that sin was in front of him, that represented his son, who will one day clean all this mess. It was a bittersweet sense. But that sacrifice, that offering, was not pleasant aroma to the Lord that day.